Alexander drove his good old Lada down the central avenue of Chelyabinsk. As usual, he was late for work. The boss would squeal like a rabid pig again. What does he care about family problems and squabbles of a simple hard worker? My head ached from constant lack of sleep. Last night, they simply and brazenly called.
Sonic? Great. This is the foreman. Concrete needs to be taken. There are no people. Let's go to work with a bullet.
I went where to go. I had to feed my wife and 3 kids. I hoped to get a day off for night overtime. But no, again, everything is also the usual. There are not enough people, let's get a sleigh. And in the end, there was only enough money to feed, sometimes to buy things for yourself and children, and so on for a rare bubble after work. Oh ho, when will all this change, or end at the very least? The man decided to turn on the radio to dispel some bad thoughts, fueled by a headache. I turned the wheel of an old tape recorder and it immediately screamed from the air. I had to turn down the sound. The respectable voice of the presenter was broadcasting.
So, today is February 15th, 2013, and we are glad to welcome our listeners to the wave of our radio station. In 20 minutes, we will move on to the news block.
The radio was drowned out by interference. Something creaked with static electricity and induction. The presenter's words were interrupted and distorted. Alexander took out a cigarette, twirled it in his fingers, holding the steering wheel with one hand. There was a traffic jam ahead at the traffic light. Bad luck since the morning. However, I was already late for work, so I don't care if it's half an hour more or half an hour less. Suddenly, a flash streaked across the sky above the high-rise buildings of the Central District, rapidly rushing down the slope to the surface of the earth. Wow! What is this? Is the plane on fire? Alexander squinted. The flash was blinding. It didn't look like an airplane. What the fuck is this? Suddenly, at the window of a boutique 20 meters to the left, in a building along the sidewalk, a showcase flew out, exploded into thousands of fragments. The sign collapsed on the sidewalk, almost hitting a young woman with a child. Alexander was overcome with perspiration. A terrible guess struck. It's a rocket, for sure. It's a rocket. The city was attacked. He ran out of the car and ran to the sidewalk where the woman tried in vain to pick up the child in her arms. After all, the sign hit the boy on the shoulder. Literally an hour later, news channels across the Russian Federation were full of headlines and bursting with airwaves, guesses and thoughts. A respectable elderly man with an intelligent face, dressed in a light jacket, was discussing lengthy topics.
We cannot explore the entire cosmos, and cosmic bodies, in particular from the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter and the so-called Kuiper belt, positioned beyond the orbit of Neptune, can visit our planet. This is another and already confirmed crash of a space car.
On another channel, by the way, on REN TV, Prokopenko's voice told that it was a malicious and targeted attack on our planet by some plasmoid forces, a reasonable hostile civilization. On other channels, they were hysterical about God's judgment, the coming apocalypse, and other rubbish with variations on the theme of meteorites. But on all channels, the thesis was regular, that the Chelyabinsk meteorite is associated with the Tunguska meteorite, as well as with the fall of a huge asteroid that buried the dinosaurs. Alexander was lying on the couch and watching it all with his own eyes. The children were digging into toys on the carpet, and his wife was frying potatoes in the kitchen. Nevertheless, he managed to get to work, talk to his boss. The day passed as usual, with the exception of the incident with the meteorite fall. The wife came out of the kitchen.
Darling, will you have tea?
Yes, please do it. Have you heard what kind of nonsense they are driving on TV? Like we were attacked by aliens today. One idiot with a smart face said that the attack was repulsed by the air defense forces.
The woman ran her hand over her head, smoothed her hair.
Yes, or maybe it's true.
Well, I don't know. I saw it. Just a flash in the sky. As if something was burning and rushing towards the ground. My registrar has recorded everything.
What are you doing? So maybe you can call them, well, on the Chelyabinsk news. Let them show you what you filmed there.
The man sat down on the couch.
Listen, I like your idea.
An hour after the incident, a meeting of the headquarters of the Civil Defense and Emergency Situations in the Chelyabinsk region was held. The FSB Lieutenant Colonel was present at the meeting. He was silent and listened to the arguments and reports of employees of related departments.
It was definitely a meteorite. All the signs. The parameters are being clarified, but already now we can say that the meteorite had dimensions of at least 15 to 20 meters across, The probable mass in terms of Gorenji intensity can range from 10 to 12,000 tons.
Someone whistled from the audience.
If the meteorite had exploded not in the atmosphere, crumbling into small fragments, then we would not have had to assemble now. The uniqueness of the incident lies in the fact that the meteorite crumbled. In fact, we were dealing with multiple fragments that collapsed on Chelyabinsk, a number of villages and cities in the region.
One of the men, a 40-year-old bearded man with glasses dressed in a black sweater, tapped a pen on the table.
Can I tell you? Astronomical observatories, in addition acoustic stations, recorded a powerful explosion in the upper atmosphere. We are talking about 200 kilotons.
The FSB lieutenant colonel looked at the man making the report.
To be precise, what could be the consequences?
The man in the sweater thought about it, scratched his chin.
If our calculations are correct, then the explosion exceeded the power of the bombing of Nagasaki by 10 times. If I'm not mistaken, 21 kilotons of TNT were detonated there. 10 Nagasaki exploded in the atmosphere today.
The lieutenant colonel was silent. A third elderly man, almost an old man, took the floor. He cleared his throat.
Currently, astronomical services in the Russian Federation cannot track space in real time with the extensive coverage area of the Star Atlas. A number of observatories are closed.
Everything was pretty clear. The lieutenant colonel stood up and addressed the commander of the Ministry of Emergency Situations, who is presiding at the headquarters.
Prepare a report for Moscow. How much time do you need? Will a few hours be enough for primary information? Get started.
From the report on the Chelyabinsk incident with additions by the FSB Lieutenant Colonel. The trajectory of the meteorite is unknown, but due to the fact that it passed through the orbits of giant planets such as Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus. In addition, it did not interact with the gravitational traps of Jupiter and the Moon in Earth orbit. It can be concluded that the kinetic energy of the meteorite was directed precisely to the point of application at the intersection of the orbit with the Earth. The probable cause is a powerful explosion in outer space. The meteorite itself could be a relatively small fragment of a planetoid that collapsed outside the solar system. Our space exploration capacities have been largely limited since 1991 for objective reasons. As for the studies of the upper and sub-upper layers of the atmosphere, we also could not identify the cause of the meteorite's destruction. The probable cause is an explosion due to internal activity in the caverns of the cosmic body.
Surprisingly, a copy of this report was held in the hands of an authorized representative of the space agency under the US government. He was also ordered to prepare an expanded report on the incident that occurred in the Urals in the Russian Federation. He ran through the report of the Russian Special Services again and grinned. Only one fact was true.
The meteorite really hit the solar system from outside the solar system and was deliberately directed.
Everything else was in a fog for the Russians, their scientific capacities suspended in 1991 after the collapse of the USSR had just begun to recover. Their president was a smart man and began to turn around, take control of industry and science. But it took them, on average, another 10 to 15 years to bridge the gap in research capabilities. A subordinate stood in the office and waited in silence. The commissioner looked at him.
What do they want?
The clerk came to the table.
They have requested information through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, asking for cooperation in risk assessment and investigation of the incident.
The commissioner chuckled.
We will provide 2 reports, one for our government. The second, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, will be sent to the government of the Russian Federation. Is that clear?
Yes, quite. Chelyabinsk, such a strange name. Where is it anyway? The subordinate pronounced the name of the city several times in syllables, which in his performance turned out to be like Chelyabinsk.
In the Urals in Russia, the heart of Russian industry. And the name is no stranger than our Houston or, say, Phoenix. I'm not good at Russian toponyms and hydronyms. I studied Russian a little bit, but I learned only one thing from the whole program.
The clerk smiled helpfully.
And what did you take out?
Exactly. Nastya is a Russian female name, and bad weather is bad weather.
The commissioner laughed, but the clerk did not understand the joke, nevertheless smiled knowingly and nodded his head. The commissioner stopped laughing and became serious.
Prepare an additional report. It is necessary to classify and strengthen the security regime of the radio telescope at Cape Canaveral. How long did the radio signal session last?
The clerk opened the folder he was holding in his hands, ran his eyes over it.
The signal was broadcast on short and long waves, recorded by our radio telescope. The duration of the session was 11 seconds. After that, an explosion was recorded in the atmosphere.
You are free. Take up the report. and present your thoughts on increasing the secrecy of the radio telescope.
The commissioner bent down in front of the laptop. Report on the incident in Russia, the US government.
Currently, 3 cosmic bodies have been discovered in outer space beyond the orbit of Pluto, emitting in the blue spectrum. The dimensions range from 2 to 3 kilometers across. None of the bodies are moving towards the Earth's surface or in the intersection of the Earth's orbit. The nature of the bodies is being studied, but the blue radiation spectrum indicates a metallized shell. As for the so-called Chelyabinsk meteorite, based on the totality of the data obtained and the research conducted, I can report the following. The Earth has an external ionized shell, pumped by the plasma energy of the sun. The total power exceeds the simultaneous power of all nuclear power plants, which is removed in 1 second of operating mode. The shell has a number of properties, some of which remain unknown. But already now we can conclude that the shell has been pointed at the planet for about 1.5 million years for orbital protection. The impact of an extraterrestrial civilization that has visited or is present on Earth is possible. In addition, it is reliably and accurately known that the meteorite was a complex part of a possible contact with a space civilization. The meteorite was emitting a radio signal, captured and interpreted by TechCom specialists working on the radio telescope.
Next, I provide the text of the signal.
Humanity is unreasonable. Humanity is doomed. Coming.
The message was not received completely due to the collision of a radio beacon meteorite with the atmospheric ionized shell of the Earth. Now we can openly assert the direct purpose of the car as a beacon. We need a set of measures and solutions aimed at preserving humanity. The question remains open.
A few hours later, the US president read the report and could not believe what he read. It was necessary to solve something, to solve it quickly and categorically. He pressed the switchboard button and waited for an answer.
Give me a direct link to Moscow. Immediately.
Contact with Moscow was secured in 12 minutes.
Vladimir, the world is on the verge of something unknown. We will provide all the data and declassify the information on the Chelyabinsk meteorite. How? Do you know everything? Where from?
At the other end, the Russian president smiled condescendingly and ran his eyes over a sheet of a secret report from the Foreign Intelligence Service. Science may have lagged behind, but the special services, as always, remained on top.